Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Opera America. I'm Mark Skorka. I'm the president of Opera America, and this is our first Salon series of 2012, so I think we can still say Happy New Year. We are delighted that not only is it our first Salon series of 2012, but it's the first time we're ever doing a program that originates with a librettist. We're very, very happy about that. I'll introduce him in a second, but I'm triply happy that the first librettist is Mark Campbell, who's such a good friend of so many of us and of Opera America. Opera America, as you know, is deeply committed to the creation and production of new work. The Salon series is a part of that commitment. Over the last 25 years, we have granted more than $11 million to opera companies in support of the creation and production of new works. And I'm just really happy that over the 25 years of that grant making, I can say that we have actually created an American opera repertoire with a lot more to come. So the progress has been measured, we have success, and we're going to keep on going. Thank you for being a part of it. In addition to building an American opera repertoire, many of you may know that we're also building the first ever National Opera Center in this building on the 7th and 8th floors. Some people came in and said, "Was this where I was last year?" No, you were on the 16th floor. We've moved up to the 18th floor to get out of the way of construction. But when you come in September to our programming, you will enter a brand new, custom-designed, custom-built, 25,000 square foot facility with a wonderful 2-story audition recital hall, recording studio, vocal studios and ensemble rooms, a rehearsal hall, libraries, and other facilities. A real home for opera in New York, and by virtue of New York's position in the opera community, a home for opera in the United States. We're really looking forward to that. In terms of the format this evening, when I introduce Mark, he'll set up the program for us and tell us what the excerpts are going to be in the order that they come in your program and share a little more information. But I'll come back at the end to ask Mark a few questions and then to moderate some questions from the floor. Librettists don't always get the billing that they deserve. We talk about Mozart's opera or Puccini's opera, Verdi's opera. We don't always talk about the librettists. But if you think about it and think of the core repertoire, the real masterpieces of the core repertoire, an amazing percentage of those masterpieces is the result of a partnership between the composer and the librettist. So thinking about the core repertoire, you have Mozart da Ponte, Verdi Boito or Verdi Piave, Puccini and Giacosa and Illica, Strauss and Hofmannsthal, Wagner and Wagner. These composer librettist teams are essential to the creation of the masterpieces, as you have that chemistry and the practice that results in great work. We are delighted that we have a great librettist here to enlighten us about the art form that is unique to opera and to share some of his wonderful work with us. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming Mark Campbell.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Jose, and Opera America for having me here. That's really sweet, and it's nice that a librettist is being paid attention to, I guess. I don't know how I can enlighten anyone about this, but it's a nice burden or challenge to do so. But tonight, the reason this program is, I chose this program is because I just wanted to kind of bring in lots of composers that I've worked with and that I love and that I'm so grateful to have been able to work with. And the first part of it is from up until the first 3 songs are from old operas, which are, by old I mean like 5 years old. And then the last part of the program are from operas that premiered last year. And we will go, I hope you read your descriptions, because I'm not going to talk about anything other than the way I'm talking now. And then I will, before we do the end of the show, which is Silent Night, it's devoted to the opera Silent Night, which I wrote with Kevin Putz, who is here tonight. He's not looking up. I'm gonna come in because that's going to be the multimedia portion of our program, and so I'm going to come in and just give a little short talk about that because we have to roll on the video for that. So I want to thank again Mark and Jose for having me, and all of Opera America for having me here, and also for our singers and for our accompanists. And let's start. Thank you for coming.
Hi, my name is Wallace, and this is Timothy Long, and we are going to start with An Admirer.
Strange, maybe somewhat young, that would be a pleasant change. And so eager, why his passions are full tilt. I wonder what scheme they're cooking up, what intrigue, what plot in pursuit of me. We'll soon see. Oh, I could expose their ruse, diffuse his views, and pretend that I don't care to engage in an affair. But why I could regard his lust with feigned disgust, respect my marriage vow, and reject this here and now. But why? Really why? I could say you're mistaken, signor, I am taken in a prudish and prim way, declare I'm a lady. Add that this is extremely coarse and unseemly. Really kick up a fuss, entreat, please you mustn't, and show him the door. What Why be chaste when the chase is what I want? That's a waste when there's something so piquant. Considering what I'd miss, well, it all comes down to this. I like sex. Sex is good, sex is nice. I like sex, good sex, to be precise. And with my better half, is the sex cold? Is it distant? That's a laugh. Try non-existent. And what of his fidelity? Is he faithful? Does he cheat? Well, he is faithful to the girls and señorita Lolitas just on the street. Starry night, overtake the day. Break out the fresh linens, warmers, finery, all neglected negligee. In any scheme they spawn, I will be a willing pawn. I let them play their game.
Our 6-month affair, our fling, our tryst, our liaison, our thing. And it's not because you have a boyfriend, and I'm feeling caught, not because I want to be your boyfriend. What a scary thought. It's just that you've crushed that feeling of trust in our tryst by adding another object of lust to your list. It used to be just your boyfriend or me, but recently I've learned you have your pick of your boyfriend, me, or Rick. The other woman. I'm not too happy in this role. The other woman. It never was a lifetime goal. I'm fine just being a slut, but won't be demoted to substitute slut. The other woman. I'm sorry, I can't make that leap. The other woman. I mean, there's cheap, and then there's cheap. I thought I could take it in stride, but your entree comes with only one side. The other woman. I guess I'm just an old-fashioned guy. Oh, our arrangement was pretty nice, meeting every Saturday at 3. While your boyfriend was in therapy, probably dealing with issues of fidelity. And what arrangement do you have now? It must be some brilliant piece of shtick, some ingenious trick for the day or days when you get dick. Sorry, Rick. You can call me a fuddy-duddy, because I won't agree to play the understudy, especially since it's not for pay. So now it's time that you find another insignificant other, though this was blissfully illicit, and as much as you miss it, kiss it. Goodbye.
There has been progress in HIV. Though you may not know that if you lived in Botswana or Thailand, and people are still dying here, though not as quickly, it seems. It's just as I suspected, just as I suspected, this inspector who has arrived at our door isn't an inspector, not an inspector, but more, much more, much, much more. And he's been sent, or so it would seem, not to inspect, but to select the right people for the new regime. Rome calls us, Rome beckons, and so to Rome we must fly. Word has reached the powers there, and in their wisdom they agree. What we've done for Sangoshkifetsa, we can do to all of Italy. Rome wants us, Rome needs us, it isn't hard to see why. Though we're merely small town folk, and at politics we're unwell versed, there are where we Sandoshkifetsans live by the motto, country first. Shoes, I see shoes, closets and closets of shoes, hundreds of styles and hundreds of hues, open-toed, buckled and bowed, beaded, bejeweled, embroidered, hand-tuned. Thin straps, wide straps, front straps, side straps, contrasting piping, textured striping, snake, lizard, satin, suede, batik leathers, tiny feathers, silk brocade, bold brassy, chicken glassy, quite lacy, slightly racy, shoes, 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 sandals, slippers, slingbacks, flats, and hats. I see hats, roomfuls and roomfuls of hats. What a magnificent fantasy that's! Rigid, flimsy, hints of whimsy, peekaboo brimmed, marabou trimmed. Big bows, dear bows, bright bows, sheer bows, sharply angled, ruby spangled, puffs, ruffles, flowers, frills, satin lining, intertwining, flowers and quills, polka dotted, leopard spotted, fresh and flouncy, slightly bouncy, hats, 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 cloches, Bretons, bonnets, robes, and gowns. I see gowns, houses and houses of gowns, and pigs and foxes and opera boxes, mixes and sables, elegant tables, jewels and chinchillas, opulent villas, chauffeurs, paper visits, grand tours, yachts, and waving to the of nuts. Seeing them bow and scrape and carve But all of that, however sweet, starts with the feet. And shoes. 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 Shoes.
Just imagine, if you will, God has blessed you with a skill for making good maps, fine maps, good maps, that you had the ability to look around and see the yielding valleys, the thriving forests, the crystalline rivers, the wind-sculpted ridges, fields, farms, plants, groves, ponds, hills. Every facet of his sublime design, and render it in line. Then suppose that in your soul you're aware the final goal in making these maps, fine maps, these maps is not to orient a man, but parcel to a plan for sport. So they go back to their kin, who or anti, union or secesh, all men are created equal, merely mortal flesh. Though officers of higher rank mean much more money in the bank, I don't discriminate. It's a fine solution, arsenic, mercury, and creosote, and with this convenient kit, one has all one needs for turning war to one's benefit. Mighty fine solution, and after all we all are slaves who surrender to one master when we're tossed into our graves. War just makes it happen faster.
So now we're doing, hey Rachel, we're doing 3 songs from Silent Night, which was just produced at Minnesota Opera in November. And we're doing a multimedia show. We're starting with a live performer, Troy, who is live. And he's going to be singing, excuse me. No. He's going to be singing an aria. If you haven't read the descriptions, I should just set this up a little bit because this piece means a lot to me, of course. Audebert is, there's just been a horrible battle on stage. This opera takes place in World War I, and for those of you who don't know about it, it's about there was a truces that happened in World War I in 1914 for Christmas, and the soldiers all put down their weapons and celebrated Christmas together, and then they couldn't really figure out how to go back to war. In this aria, it's followed a horrible battle on stage, and Audebert, the French lieutenant, is tallying his soldiers who have been killed, who have been wounded, who are missing. And as he's doing that, he's imagining his wife at home, Madeleine. Madeleine has had a child, but he was conscripted to go to war before he ever saw the child. So he's imagining his wife with the child, singing to the child a lullaby. Audebert has just lost a photograph of his wife in the last battle, so he misses her a lot right now. As he sings about imagining the child sleeping, I'm looking at this beautiful child here. Sorry. He sings about being able to want to sleep, to something that soldiers never get enough of or can never do is sleep, a peaceful sleep. And so he's singing about that. And as he does that, and this is where we'll have a transition into the video, because we couldn't have a chorus of 48 in this room. You will see a production from the Minnesota Opera production of Silent Night, and leading from this aria into the whole, the 3 bunkers on stage, singing of sleep, of wanting to sleep. And the lyrics are there, you can read them. It's not about the lyrics, it's about the music in this case. And then the second part of this video is an aria that occurs in Act 2 of the opera. The singer, Anna Sorensen, has been able to find a way to visit her lover, Nicholas Sprink, at the front. And in Act 2, this truce has occurred, and now no one knows what to do. How do we get back to war? So they decide to bury the dead, just to kind of stall the decision a little bit. And she watches the wagon going off with the full of corpses from the battle. and it's followed by this beautiful bagpipe. She watches it, and she's helped collect the pictures, the photographs of the soldiers' wives and their girlfriends and their daughters and their letters to the people they love. And she's looking at them, and she's talking to Nicholas Sprink and saying, "You're going to be next. You're going to be the next person thrown into that wagon, unless we do something." And this song is it's the closest I've ever written to an anti-war song. So, yeah, let's do it. Sorry. Who's going to press the button? Are you okay? Press this button and tell me to shut up.
You should press it.
Laissez graver Pierre, assis en La Rochelle, Fauchon André, 20 ans, Saint-Brieuc. Madeleine, j'ai perdu ta photo, celle près de Lilas. Avec Charles, 30 ans, Campbell, je l'ai bien embrassé plus de 100 fois par jour. Mort, Vernis, Paul, 30 ans, Amiens, mais Pochel a raison. Je n'ai pas besoin d'une photo pour te voir. Je ferme les yeux et tu es là, près de feu et notre jeune enfant et tout contre toi. Il se met à pleurer, tu lui souris et tu lui chantes une berceuse doucement, et il s'arrête à pleurer. Ah, Madeleine, Madeleine, j'espère que tu vas bien, que vous allez bien, et que notre petite laisse dormir, dormir. J'en ai tellement besoin, dormir, dormir. Disparu, les mots, oh, dis, je finirai demain.
made that wonderful recording that we could watch and listen to.
Yeah, it's great.
So, is there some...
There's a chord between us.
There is.
Don't cross this line. Your foot is very close to this line. I'm telling you right now.
Do your words just call forth beautiful music? How is it that all of the numbers that we've heard tonight are just so beautiful? There must be something about your words.
I don't know how to answer that question. There are two composers here. Kevin is here, who wrote Silent Night, and Martin Hennessy is back here, who wrote I will say, I don't know how to write words without knowing that they're going to be set to music.
And I was going to ask you, did you fall into being a librettist by accident or by design? How did you become a librettist?
No one designs to become, anything in theater. I think you fall into. I was a lyricist first. I still essentially am a lyricist. But what happened was in 2002, John Musto, through a friend of ours, Joseph Thalkin, introduced, we met, and he asked me if I'd write an opera libretto, and I said, yeah, I'd like to do that. And so that's how, I just started doing it, and I love working in opera.
And you said you started out as a lyricist.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between being a lyricist and being a librettist?
Sure, a librettist, you're in charge of everything. In terms of the story and the words. As a lyricist, generally you just write the songs that are going to, the words that are going to be sung. There's a book writer in a musical. I just wrote a musical. Michael Slade is here, back there. This is turning into like a bad TV show, isn't it? One thing, the reason why I like this business more than musical theater is because I went into this business because I love music and I love composers, and I feel most music that's done in musical theater these days is so done by committee, and in opera no one goes to a composer and says there are too many notes here. Our preview audience didn't quite get that song, and so I'm happier working in opera, much happier.
And as a lyricist, just always good with words, writing, verse. How do you even get started as a lyricist?
I was sleeping with a composer, and he asked me to write some words. It's the truth. It's the truth. It happens. I'm sorry, but you asked. No, I was dating a composer, and I was an actor then, and I was a really bad actor, and I needed a new career. And he asked me to. He had a reading coming up, and he said, "Oh, I'll never finish all these words." I said, "Let me try it." And I'd written poetry when I was a kid, and maybe that's, and I also studied playwriting. But I think studying playwriting, being a good playwright is more important to being a good librettist than being a good poet, because it's not about words, it's about architecture and structure. We give a solid structure for the composer to work with, and for them to decorate the rooms with, and to create a beautiful couch, But we have to think about the beams that are holding up the whole building.
Which in a way then become invisible, and we're left with your wonderful
Absolutely.
words.
If they're good, they become invisible. Yeah.
Toni Morrison was our keynote speaker at the annual conference in 2005. And she read some of her poetry, and then she read some of her new libretto for Margaret Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about how her poetry had a kind of opacity, density, but that when she wrote for the opera, she wrote to leave room for the music. Do you recognize that as a concept when you're writing, to leave room for the music? What does that mean?
She's absolutely right. That's crucial. People don't go to, I don't think people, oddly, I don't think people go to the opera for words. They go to it for the music. They go to be transported. Words don't necessarily transport someone. Music does. So my role as a librettist is to support the composer. It's often to get out of the way of the composer. Does that make sense? It's to set up the moments where the composer can give the audience what they came to the opera to experience.
how much do you want your audience to get the words in that experience in the theater?
I don't care about the words. I really don't. I care about the events in the opera that allow the music to take over. My favorite moments in opera are when the audience is not even paying attention to the words anymore, because I've done my job well enough to set up the moment that it becomes this other experience where the words themselves are not, oh, this is so horrible to say, but the words themselves are not that important. It's the moment, and it's a feeling that the audience is, how an audience is connecting with the singer and the music. That to me is why, that's why I like writing an opera. I mean, that's why I think those are the great moments in opera.
There are librettists who look forward to having their libretti published as poems. Is that something that would occur to you, or?
Sure, I'd love everything to be published, but yeah, of course. I mean, why wouldn't I? But it's nice for my ego. But I think it's really embarrassing to read a libretto, you know, like because it doesn't exist without music. It doesn't. It's that marriage, you know. It's the marriage of those two things that creates this beautiful, powerful thing. Words by themselves. I mean, Rappahannock County. Those are great words, but I really can't read those words without hearing Ricky's music, and that's the way it should be. I don't mean I'm sounding so so humble right now. I had 2 glasses of wine. I'm sorry, which doesn't usually make me humble. It just, I think we're all in this business for the music. We are all supporting the music.
You've written libretti for comedies, which is rare in opera these days to find a comic opera, as well as more serious tragic work. And just for everyone, there is an English libretto as well in Silent Night, because we only heard French and German tonight.
Yeah, there's a translation.
There's a whole lot that's in English.
Scottish. My last name is Campbell. I have to make the exception.
It was kind of funny that we were hearing 2 excerpts that were in other languages.
Right.
I want to ask you about that. But is there a difference between writing a libretto for a comic opera or a tragic opera?
Absolutely not.
Same principle.
Same principle. Comic opera is much more difficult because you have the same principles. You have to set up your events. You have to be clear about your characters. You have to be clear about the story, and then you have to be funny. And if you're not funny, you'll know. The audience is silent, and that is a tragedy. It's really hard to endure what you think is the funniest line you've ever written when you're at your desk, and the composer even thinks it's funny, and then suddenly it's there and no one's laughing. Yeah, that's really tough.
And I imagine that because pacing is so important to comedy that how it is then set to music is.
That's crucial.
Essential.
Yeah, absolutely. There are composers who can set comedy, and there are composers who cannot. You know, I generally work with composers who can set. John Musto sets comedy brilliantly. I mean, and I don't know how he does it, but it's an odd thing about comedy because a composer kind of has to. I'm going to contradict what I just said, but a composer kind of has to get out of the way of the comic line. And they have to make sure it's clear, and they have to pace it correctly, and it's not easy at all.
Did anyone teach or coach you in libretto writing, or is it just trial and error?
A lot of error. A lot of trials. No one. No, I mean, lyric writing is pretty good training for writing libretto, because. You have to write, you know, very few words, and you have to make a statement and make a dramatic moment with as few words as possible. So I mean, look at Michael Corey. His training is also as a lyricist, and that's why he's an amazing librettist.
But the 2 of you have also a great architectural sense, and not all libretti or new operas that we've seen with libretti have that strong architecture.
Thanks.
Learned, taught, or just experimental as you go along?
Learned. Yeah, I mean, it's the basics of playwriting. Robert McKee's story structure class is a really good place to start for people who want to write for opera or theater or anything like that, because it's a great lesson. It's a basic, it's playwriting 101, but it's just a reminder about it, about how to build events and how to hold off on events. And yeah, I would recommend Robert McKee's story structure as a good place to start.
You've worked with so many different composers and so many different leading composers of today, and there are several in the room, so I'm not going to ask you who's your favorite. But
because I'll tell you.
Are composers similar in archetype in the way you have to work with them and in developing your libretto and adjusting the libretto, or is each composer very, very different so that you are having to partner very differently as you work with them?
You have to adapt very. Each one is different. I do make a point of, before I work with a composer, listening to their music and thinking of how I can make their music, what I feel are their strengths in the music, come out. For example, with Kevin, I listened to his music a great deal before I started writing the libretto for Silent Night. And I remember being in Union Square buying vegetables or salad or something like that, and I had it on my iPhone, his violin concerto, and I started crying, and I was thinking, okay, man, I cry really easily. But I was like thinking, okay, this is my way into this in a way, and I want to take full advantage of this composer's voice. Some composers you will never change their voice at all, so you have to find a way to work with them. But yeah, each one is different. It was very interesting working with Bill Bolcom because he worked with Arnold for so long that he was so used to, when I presented him the full, complete libretto of Lucrezia, he was shocked because they would work together in a room and go, no, I don't like that line, let's do this one. And he wasn't used to having a complete libretto, and that's the way I work. I usually give a complete libretto to a composer, and often annotated so that they know what the structure is.
What do you mean by annotated so they know what the structure is?
Like if sections repeat in a libretto, I believe, I like tunes, in opera, and I like to repeat things. I believe arias, for example, come from a basic AABA structure often, or ABAB or ABC, whatever. And so I will do that in an opera. The whole Volpone, my first opera, has 26 modular sections that repeat. And so John got a libretto that said, here's A, and then he would turn to page like 20 and see, here's A again. You can choose to repeat this music if you want, or you don't have to, whatever you want to do. And he would often do it, but he might invert it, or he might do, just a variation of it. It was the same with later the same evening. Silent Night, not so much because it's in 5 languages, so it's really hard to write. Something that's structured in French the same way it's structured in German or Scottish.
How did you do that? And are you conversing in those languages?
Barely Scottish. Scotch, on the other hand. I studied French, and in high school, and then studied again because before I went to Paris a few years ago, and then I've never studied German, but I had a German boyfriend, and I've been to Germany a lot, and I wrote it in English, and then I translated it myself using my own rustic sense of those languages. And then I sent it to translators, Anne Minucci for the French, and Jens Schaffer in Berlin for the German. And they would either come back and say, wow, this is great, or they would just laugh. What are you thinking? It was in an email. I don't know why I'm putting an accent to email. But it was a great process. I mean, people are so impressed that the libretto was in 5 languages. My job was so easy. Kevin's was to set those languages is a whole different story. That's much more complicated. To be able to set French or to set German correctly was much more difficult, and that's why we can't wait to write our next opera in English.
All English.
All English, yeah.
Have you listened to a composer's music and decided not to work with that composer because you couldn't figure out how you would fit your emotional soundscape into that composer's music?
No, I haven't, because I pretty much accept any commission that comes my way. I can say that I've worked with the composer, and after we worked together, I said, yeah, that's happened a couple times where I thought, like, this is not a good collaboration. Maybe the composer has their own agenda of what opera should be, and I have my own agenda. We hope that they mix.
And as you're writing the words, and because you become familiar, say, with Kevin's music, and you hear what he might do with it, how often were you utterly surprised by the way it came out because that's not at all how you imagined it? Or did he really respond to your direction, and I don't mean that in a that way, but your hint, and he followed it as you expected he might?
Well, you're talking about Kevin, and I mean, each composer is different. I can give hints in my libretto about what I think the music sounds like, and I hear tunes. Whenever I write an aria, I hear a tune. And it's stupid and very simple. So I'm generally always impressed with whatever a composer comes up with. I think, I will say this about Silent Night, not to get too emotional about it, but the thing I really loved about it was that in terms of the merging of words and music, I feel it is the closest I've come to like really enjoying a collaboration and really feeling like the vision was one vision. And I really need to include Minnesota Opera in that, because if you have an opera company that doesn't share your vision, that's a problem. And Minnesota Opera they really nurture this opera every step of the way. And the workshops for this opera, we had 3 of them, were the most exciting times of my life, because Kevin and I would just kind of look at each other and go, this feels like it's too long. What can we do? And it's really impressive when a composer is, because it doesn't happen, when a composer thinks something is too long. I generally think things are too long, but when a composer turns over and says, I think maybe we can make this aria a little bit shorter, that's amazing, because they don't usually do that. Yeah.
And usually, how many of your words change from your delivery of the complete libretto to the final product? 10%, 20%, none, 50%?
None. No, I'm kidding. They have to change. It really depends on the project and how good I was as a librettist. The inspector, I did let John down. As a librettist, I let him down. I did not do as good of a libretto as I should have. So there was a lot of back and forth. I very much respect when a composer says, hey, I want to bring back this tune. Can you take these words, and here's the PDF, and here's me singing it. Can you make those words go into this tune? I'm happy to do that, because they have a sense of the whole, the cohesion of the whole piece. And like I said, if I'm just being an architect, the words, yeah, I can move this pillow over here. I can't change that beam, but I can move this pillow over here. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, I think we have to be adaptive. It's been really rare when I've said, no, we're not doing that. I can think of one example recently, but I'm not going to bring it up because it's gossipy. Yeah. Any more questions?
I wanted to turn to our guests tonight. Any questions from our audience?
They don't have it because they want to drink,
They're stunned by your eloquence. Any questions? Yeah, great.
I have a question. I know that each inspector was based loosely on Gogol, but have you had to adapt a novel, a play, something where you had to take this existing, hard, fast characters and plot and turn that into...
Say it louder, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Have you been asked to adapt an existing structure, either from a novel or a play, that you had to write a libretto, fresh for, instead of coming up with your own structure? Understand?
Sure. Silent Night was not my idea at all. It was Dale Johnson's idea, and he said, look at this movie, tell me what you think. So I looked at it over the weekend, and I emailed him on Monday. I said, yeah, I think it would be a good opera, but I have to make some changes to the story. Fortunately, I mean, it was a little bit scary because it was written into the contract that they had to approve the libretto. So I was kind of freaking out. And but they eventually emailed back and said, this is going to be a monumental opera. So, you know, so yeah, no, I've had to. I think maybe the answer to this question is like when you adapt something, especially if the author is dead, you can do what you want.
Yeah.
You can. The thing you have to worry about is being faithful doesn't serve anyone. Making the piece exciting for the audience does. So whatever you need to do to make it work for an audience is, you know, I mean, that's an opera tradition. I mean, look at Macbeth, Othello. Macbeth is not a good example. But, you know, changes are made because you're turning this into a whole different beast.
Other questions?
There was another hand up.
Okay. All the way back?
You said earlier that your words were not important, but your words are really incredible. And
Thank you.
But you did talk about finding.
You have to speak louder, I'm sorry.
You did talk about finding moments and writing moments, and I wanted you to talk a little bit more about because your songs are so emotional, and there's lots of ways to approach a moment. So, can you talk a little bit about your process about finding the moments, the emotional content of a moment, and where you focus and how you correct that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the process is such a elusive thing, and it's kind of stupid to talk about. Like, it's hard, it's hard for me to understand because sometimes it will be based on just making an intelligent decision that's going to communicate something to the audience, and sometimes it's based on, wow, that's a really beautiful sunset. Where can I find that in this lyric? Or it's really, I don't know. I mean, for Silent Night, I was using existing material, but the pieces that you saw tonight do not exist in the movie. Those moments are not really in the movie. They were moments where I kind of said, wow, what a privilege. I get to say something against war. What a fucking great privilege. And people are going to pay for it. And they're paying me to write about it, you know? When do I get this? And so I wanted to take full advantage of that. Gosh, I'm not answering your question. I'm just being stupid. I will say in comedy, often it is based on structure and like, let's get to the laugh. Let's get to that, not to the laugh, but to the really funny moment where there's chaos. The best comedy exists in chaos. So let's get to chaos, where no one is understanding what anyone is saying, and everything is screwed up. And the audience will really laugh at that because we've all been there. So I didn't answer your question, I just digressed. I'm sorry.
What are some exciting projects coming up?
Everything is all in contracts right now, so I can't. My agent is here, Barbara. What can I talk about?
I think we should hold off.
Really? That's why she's here.
You can confirm for us that there's some exciting projects in the works.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It's really exciting. There are 3 exciting projects at least. And also Boston Lyric Opera is doing The Inspector in March or April. Okay. And Philadelphia is doing Silent Night, and I think there will be many other productions of Silent Night. Kevin and I will be working together again very soon.
Scoop.
Yeah, I mean, that I know. As often as we can work together, I will want to work, you know, yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Okay.
One more
Yes,
question.
I ran over snow trucks and sledding right. First of all, thank you. This was really wonderful.
Thank them.
Yes, and it's great to have a Librettist doing the program, and the words were fantastic. A question about how you were going to go about organizing the architecture system. How do you go about doing that? Do you work with
Architecture. Oh, that's so easy. That's an easy question. Outline, 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 outline. I can go through like 10 or 15 outlines before I start writing words. And this is also from Robert McKee's story structure. It was one of the really wonderful things is that if you outline something and you've got all of your events in place, the words will start writing themselves, and that's when the euphoria sets in. That is, the rest of it is like, God, when can I start writing? But when those words start writing themselves, and when the notes start writing themselves, I would think, as a composer, that's the joy. That's the joy of it. That's why we do it. That, and when an audience responds to maybe the euphoria you felt in writing and creating these moments. Let's end with euphoria.
I suppose the encore.
Okay.
Yeah, encore. Thank you so much for being here.